Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about this new Nomad palette. You already know that because you saw the title and the thumbnail. This is the Love and Death palette. Sounds very intense. It's very Romeo and Juliet, very in Fair Verona, where we lay our scene. There are lots of cool details that I want to go over with this palette. Let's just start with the basics. This will be available for sale on January 24th, which, if things go according to plan, is the day that this video is going up. So probably when you're watching this, this palette's already available. I'm just going to read you some info from the Nomad Cosmetics Instagram page. It says that the price is going to be $47 US. Pretty pricey, but when you see how cool this packaging is, I think you'll realize why it's a little bit higher price tag. They also said this is not limited edition, so you do not have to go crazy trying to get it. Basically what they're trying to say is if it sells out, they will restock it. So don't worry. No FOMO, take your time. An almost $50 palette is pretty pricey, so you don't have to rush into it. Oh, also I have a coupon code with Nomad now. It is not an affiliate code. I don't earn any commission. You can just save 10% if you use my first name, Amanda. That's usually what my code is with most brands. So that'll save you a couple bucks. Not an affiliate code. Just feel free. Use as you need if you're going to order from Nomad. Now their description of this palette says 12 velvety mattes, 4 intense shimmers, and 2 sheer toppers. As with the duality theme, many of these shades were designed to be used in 2 ways. Shadows and liners, shadows and blushes, or shadows and highlighters. That's cool. I'm just wearing them on my eyes. Next time, if you want to see more looks with this palette, let me know and I'll use them all over the face next time. As they mentioned, there's a duality theme here. Love and Death. You can see it's a 2-sided palette, so it opens from the middle like this, which is, as far as I know, a completely new packaging style for Nomad. Basically, we have 2 9-pan palettes, Love and Death. All the little imprints and the shadow names and everything are themed accordingly. I did have the wherewithal to shoot some close-ups of the palette before I swatched it and before I used it. It just arrived a couple days ago, so as soon as it got here, I filmed what the inside of the palette looks like before I touched it so you can see what the original imprints look like. By now, I have swatched and used and compared and messed up a bunch of the little imprints. So we're going to take a close-up look at this palette. Of course, the packaging, the shadows. I'm also going to show you finger and brush swatches. And I do have a couple of comparisons too. I just tried to pull in similar-ish shadows from other Nomad palettes. Particularly if you're really only drawn to one side or the other, I hope that the comparisons can help you a little bit there. Let's start with the packaging and just some close-ups of this Love and Death palette, and then we'll get to the swatches and the tutorial. Here's a look at the front covers of the box and the palette. They have the same artwork, but just a little bit different arrangement of the lettering because of the way the palette opens up. And the palette, you can see, has this reflective, iridescent look to it as well. The theming and the colors on the 2 sides of the outer packaging are reflected on the inside as well. Here's a close-up look at the front of the box. It's really beautiful. I find this art to be very striking. I like all the little details. The more I look at it, the more details I pick up on. On the back of the box, you can see a depiction of the colors inside, and if we look really close up here, you can see that there's a little part that says that this is cruelty-free and vegan, so safe for my vegan friends. Then on the palette, you can see that iridescence, and of course it's split down the middle because of the way that it opens up. The back of the palette doesn't have the shade depictions or anything. Now we're going to open this baby up and look at each side, first with the Love side. When you open up and reveal this little half of the palette's sort of its own 9-pan palette. There is a mirror on each side of the fold out lid, and then you can see that the shades have these really cool little imprints, all very thematically relevant, very Shakespearean, very Romeo and Juliet. Then the other side is the death side. This has some blues and purples and cooler tones. Some of the little printed images are harder to see on the shimmers, but it's just the top middle shade on each side that doesn't have anything printed in it. And those are the sheer topper type of shades that I think are also meant to be used as highlighters as well. And here's the whole color story all together. I really think the love side benefits from the addition of the death side shades more so than the other way around. I think you can tell even here in the pans and much more so in the swatches that the red pinky shades are pretty similar in appearance, and we just have a lot more shade variety on the blue purple death side. This fold-out packaging is so cool. I really like it. I thought it was going to be kind of a pain to use, but it really wasn't, and I was even able to use the mirrors, so no problems there. Now we're going to take a look at the swatches. On top, you see finger swatches, and then directly below each shade is swatched with a brush. I really, really like the metallics on this side of the palette, but I think even particularly with the brush swatches, but across the board, these shades just read a little bit too similarly on me. Maybe on a different skin tone, they'll show up with a little bit more nuance, but the difference here with this side of the palette is very striking in my opinion. There's so much more variety. I just feel like I can get so many more different types of looks from this selection of 9 shades. I could use this side by itself and come up with a bunch of different looks, but I really need to use both together if I want to get a variety of looks out of the love shades. At least just for my personal taste. Now I'm going to show you some comparisons. I did pull some reds and pinks out of these 3 Nomad palettes. So Hudson Valley, the Provence palette, and the Cloud Forest palette. If you have those, then this red and pink side, it's not an exact one-to-one dupe, especially with the metallics, but overall, I was able to get a pretty decently similar selection. This is the only comparison I have for this half of the palette. Red shades are pretty rough to do a bunch of swatches, so I only did that one round. I have the Haunted Europe palette here for the death side, and I was able to get a pretty decently similar color selection, but not nearly as dead on as far as matches go. And also I think you can tell that the Love and Death shades are just performing a lot better for me. But if you're regretting missing out on the Haunted Europe palette, then there are some pretty decently close color story matches here. And for my second round of comparisons for this side of the palette, I combined the Provence palette and the Whistler Snow Lodge. Now, the comparison swatches are quite a bit brighter. The Love and Death palette is a little bit more smoky and grungy. But again, color story-wise, we're at least getting something similar. I do think we could get some similar looks. So not a perfect match, but if you have these palettes already, you may be able to pull these colors. Now that you've seen the palette close up and you've seen some swatches, some comparisons, I want to show you an eyeshadow tutorial. I am mostly wearing the more blue side, the death side, but I did pull in one shadow from the other side as well. I was really just playing with this look and having fun with it. I really like how it turned out, so I'm just going to show you a quick little eyeshadow tutorial and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts at the end. I'm starting off by priming my lids with my ColourPop Party Proof primer. I don't really have a plan in mind. I'm just going to grab the shades that interest me the most. So I'm starting with the death side, and this dusty purple shade called Dagger was absolutely calling to me, so I'm sort of letting the palette guide my looks. I'm using the Lethal Cosmetics eyeshadow brushes, and I'm just really lightly building this up. I'm going to be layering a lot of shadows, so I'm just sort of taking my time and layering and blending as I go. Now I'm adding a little bit of the shade Dark to the outer corner, and I'm also blending that up into the crease, sort of mixing in with that dagger shade. I don't want to go too dark too quickly, so I'm just taking my time with this and really shaping that shadow around the outer part of the eye, and then just used what was left on my brush and swept that along the lower lash line. Then I'm using the shade Cupid, applying that with my finger and really packing that on the inner half of the lid. And next I'm going to take Tragedy and Juliet. I'm putting them on two different fingers, and I'm just going to sort of blend those all together. First, packing Tragedy on the rest of the lid, and then I'm going to use a little bit of that Juliet shade in the middle to blend Tragedy and Cupid together so that I can really get that reflective blue to purple pop look on the lid. I also put a little bit of Juliet on the lower lash line, added a little Cupid on the brow bone, and now just using what was left over on that brush to blend into the lower lash line. Then I'm using this matte black shade called Death on a pencil brush and really smudging that because I'm going to add some magnetic liner and magnetic lashes. So I want a really smoky, smudgy eyeliner base before I go in with that magnetic liquid liner. I also used a little bit of the Kaleidos liner called Night of Creation on my lower waterline to bring in some of that shifty purple look on the lower waterline as well. And I think that this turned out really cute. I ended up wearing this makeup all day long, including the lashes, and my eyeshadow still looked really nice at the end of the day. So I'm very pleased with this. As usual for Nomad Cosmetics, they definitely immediately grabbed my interest. I think this packaging is super freaking cool. I really love the duality theme, the sort of two palettes in one setup. Everything about this, you can tell the details are really well thought out and really well executed. I do prefer the death side much more than the love side, and I feel like this is sort of a common complaint that I make with a lot of really red and pink and red heavy palettes is I think these all kind of look too similar. There's just not enough variety. A lot of these bright mid-tone pinky red, reddy pink type of colors do really end up looking very similar once they're applied to the skin. Even more so if you use a brush and put it on the eye. A lot of these shadows don't read differently enough. I just wish there was a little bit more of the variety that we see on this side over on this side. This just feels a little bit one note compared to the complexity of the death side. I would love to see maybe a little bit of really warm golds brought into this side. Sort of these kind of tones that you see here in the packaging. I think that could still keep that warmth and vibrancy, but just give us a little bit more to work with shade variety wise. As far as the formula goes, as usual, I stay impressed with the Nomad palettes. I think last year they really hit their stride formula wise, and I do find them to be incredibly consistent when it comes to the formulations. I really like the mix of textures. I like the performance. There is this more sheer topper type of shade, and then the other shimmers are incredibly foily, incredibly bright metallic type of shades. My only complaint, or the only thing I would change, is I just wish for a little bit more shade variety, some more depth or some more something on this very red side of the palette. But I super love this. I've been so into this purple blue combo lately. I also love the idea, this duality theme, the contrast. I like, you know, the kind of opposites attract idea that is very relevant in Romeo and Juliet. It's very relevant in this palette. So I like this duality take. I think this is a really good idea. If we had maybe 3 shades on the more red side tweaked, I would probably be completely head over heels for this palette, but I absolutely still think it's high quality. I think it's interesting. It's something that I'm gonna be drawn back to, and that's a very high compliment in my opinion from somebody who has a really extensive palette collection. This is something that's going to keep my interest, and that's pretty special. Let me know if you're interested in seeing more looks from this palette. I know there are a lot of videos on YouTube right now with it, so if you feel like you're good with the inspiration, that is totally fine. But if you do want to see more, that's something I would be interested in working on as well. So let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about this palette. Are you interested? Are you going to pick it up? Are you going to go dig out the comparison palettes instead and try to recreate looks with what you already have? I always love to hear what you think about things too, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Look at me, Lash Queen! Lash Queen! These lethal brushes, they're really, really good. Lash Queen! Hello, fellow kids. Okay. I know this kind of looks similar to the look that I just did with my new at the drugstore haul. I do not deny those allegations whatsoever. I just really like a little blue and purple combo right now, so hello. These Ardell magnetic lashes were not as easy as the Glamnetic ones. They're just like more stiff and harder to work with, so I don't feel like they look as good. But you know, we're experimenting, we're trying new things. It's Makeup.Just.For.Fun. Specifically, if you watched the end, I want you to know that I did very much paint my nails to try to match these shades right here. It's not a perfect match, but it's pretty darn close for this purple, which is just stunning. Am I a lashes girl now and a blue girl? I don't think I'm fully converted, but I think the possibility exists. The potential exists more than I thought it would. If I can wear lashes and blue eyeshadow this much already in 2023, you can do anything. That's a pep talk. Alright, well, Maggie says it's time to stop filming apparently. Ma'am, ¿qué es esto? Maybe they're picking up the trash. She always gets mad about that. Not me. I'm happy about it. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'm happy that you're here, and you know what? If you haven't heard it already today, you're a cool cat. Oh, I'm such a mom. Anyway, I love your face, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, alright, thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.